Alrighty, here we are. Here we're going. How's audio? Just looking at a few things before we start here. Um, for people who haven't been paying attention, if you happen to be here right now, before I get started, just a few bookkeeping things. I've been rewriting a lot of the code to conform to the Zig style guide. I'm not a big fan of the style necessarily, but where is it? I wanted the code to be consistent with what else is in the Zig ecosystem, and of course, with itself, of course. Um, so basically, just to cover it real quick before we get kicked off on working on the game itself, yeah, this is basically the things. If you want to check it out, just go to this website. I'm not going to cover everything, but just expect like the variable names, the function names, types and stuff to be cased differently and such. Yeah. How everyone doing? I hope you had having a good break. If you're on break, if not, hope you get on break soon. Or everybody needs to take some kind of break at the end of the year, I believe. Anyway, very belated Christmas, and I think I'm gonna get started here. Yeah, okay. Let's see. So, what are push boxes, right? Oh, don't challenge me. I'm just here in training mode. How do I go idle? Away. That's fight gate. Okay, that was funny. Cool. Got anybody in the chat? Well, that's gonna get started here. See if anybody shows up. Is it working? Is my links working? Did I send out everything to the world? I know it's a weird hour for most people. It is the holidays, so I apologize for streaming at this time, but I want to use some of my free time for something. Okay. Well, either way, let's go ahead and move forward. I hope my audio is working. It isn't? Yeah, it looks like it is. Cool. Yeah, so what are push boxes? Well, you can call them whatever you want, like physical collision boxes or whatnot. But currently, our game, we have, what is, can I show the hitbox? What's the key for it? Yeah, so we have these blue boxes, which are just like vulnerable boxes, and we have, whoops, that's a bug. I'll fix that later. We have these attack red boxes, right? And when they collide with the other player, it causes a hit reaction and damage and things like that. But we don't have a way to push each other around. If I jump into an old game here, let me show you. A test game. I want to training. Yeah. Let's jump into this mode real quick. I can show y'all what push boxes are. So basically, well, this is of course Darkstalkers 3 or Vampire Savior. You see these green boxes? Of course, in this game too, we have these red boxes when you hit the enemy. If it overlaps with the blue boxes, which are we either call frontal boxes, damage boxes, or hurt boxes, whatever you want. But I can push my opponent around and look. Do you see how like when these green boxes overlap, they cause a the character to be pushed back, right? And if I jump on top, somewhere in the middle, and then I get pushed back a little bit. This is like one quirk of this game, I think. So it depends on the game. See how the other player is not really pushed back very much at all. It might be dependent on the velocity of the jump, a lot of things. It seems like it doesn't get pushed back until they land or something. But yeah, that's the basic rules of this. Like both players generally get pushed back. So I don't know if I can control the other player right now from this. Yeah, okay. So if we push each other, in general, we don't move very much. It's going to be affected by the combined velocity of both players, both characters. But yeah, there's a little bit of jittering in the boxes here. I don't know if that's actually in the data or just the way I think this is the way the script in this tool shows the boxes. But yeah, that's the basic idea. So we just need to add what I like to call push boxes. I think a lot of people refer to it that way. So first thing we need to do is add data, right? So we don't have push box data in our assets, right? We have in our, is it character? That's the test. I don't want the test one. I want their actual data. We put it here, right? Yeah. So, we have vulnerable box group, attack box group. By the way, I renamed these to conform to the Zig standard. I forgot to update is looping, didn't I? Did I update that in the character data? What? Oh, yeah. Character data. Oh, I didn't update is looping yet. Oh, I'll do that later. Anyway, so we have the vulnerable boxes, we have the attack box group. We don't have push box group, right? So let's just go add that to our game data. It's gonna be the same kind of data as the rest of hitboxes, but yeah. So right now in our action properties, we have vulnerable hitboxes, attack hitboxes. One difference with the push box though is we want to have a default push box, right? We don't want to have to have every single action in the game specify their own push box. Otherwise, there's a big chance of making a mistake. For the most part, we want the push box to be the same. We don't want it to vary between moves, right? Otherwise, when you do an attack, they suddenly get pushed back and stuff like that. There are cases we want it, but for now, we're going to put a default one. So first thing we're going to do is going to add the group here, right? And we'll do that per action, and we'll get to doing per action push boxes too, as well. But yes, let's call it push box, push hitbox group here. It's the same as everything else. And then you see we need to do this boilerplate stuff here, right? So yeah, all I have to do is, this is for stringifying it. This is just for writing out writing things out to game data. Whoops. And I'm just going to find everywhere else where you specify this vulnerable hitbox group. You see we have attack. And this formatter does this stuff I don't like. It puts everything on one line. That's one annoying thing about this auto formatter that I'll talk about later maybe, but I really don't like it. So for now, I'm just going to format the way I want here. I have to be careful about formatting whole files. Yeah, what's up, Melly Melon? Glad you can be here. You finally can catch one of these. But yeah, I'm going to go here and add a push box to the end of it. Oops, because we need to initialize everything properly, of course. Push hitboxes. These are all the same type. Where else do we use the hitbox vulnerable group? I think this is a test. We're not going to worry about the test right now. Initialization, stringification for writing out JSON, and there. Okay, where else in the assets do we set it up? So let's see. Well, in our common code, we have this get vulnerable box thing. Whoops, I think, how do I expand everything? Or how do I unfold or expand? Expand all? I don't know. There's no expand all. Okay, well, is it called unfold? Yeah, unfold all. Okay, there we go. And that's all tests and stuff. Don't worry about the tests. And then we get vulnerable boxes. So I don't know if you notice we have a get vulnerable boxes. Do we have a get attack boxes? Hold on. Get vulnerable. No. Do we even use this anywhere? Oh, I think we use it for. I don't even use it anywhere, do we? Other than this test. Because I'm not worry about it then. Look for other places where you use this. It's just there, and then the test. Okay. Of course, in the simulation, that's the test as well. I should start outside the test. Okay, so we have get active boxes here, of course, and this is our actual hitbox this is for drawing our This is for drawing our hitbox data. Do you think you'll ever do an editor for this game? I don't know. Right now, just keeping everything in JSON data, it's fine. You can stringify everything out. So if you edit the data in real time, it's possible. The thing is, I'm using something called Raylib, and it's the framework I'm using for creating a window, input handling, rendering, and it has its own UI, but it's a lot less flexible than something like Dear yeah, what IMGUI, ImGUI. Yeah, I think it's a little more less flexible than ImGUI, and I'd like to use ImGUI, but I don't think it has a backend in Zig for Raylib. I could be wrong. There's probably a backend in C, so it's technically possible to use. But yeah, we'll see. That was going to be more of an amendment, something we do later. So if I'm actually going to try to build a proper test game out of this stuff instead of just demonstration, maybe it's something worth doing. But for now, I'm not going to do that. Okay. Anyway, going back. So yeah, I want to, of course, draw the push boxes, right? But I did forget one thing, which is I want to add a default push box for every character in the game. So I want to stick to the data stuff right now. So I'm going to make... should I make it a group? No, it doesn't need to be a group. It needs to be a single hitbox that applies everywhere. And then if an attack has... So if an attack or an action needs their own push boxes, it will override it. Now, that doesn't cover the case when maybe we don't want a push box, but that's going to be the rare case. So it's very rare that you actually don't want to push box for almost for every action in a fighting game. Of course, there's cases that you don't want to, like teleports and stuff, but we'll get there. Well, maybe, depending on whether or not we make a move like that. Okay. Anyway, what was it called? Push hitbox group. So all it is going to be, it's not even going to be hitbox group, I think. I think we're just going to make it a single hitbox. So we go to hitbox groups. Where is our hitbox group? Here it is. So, this has start frame, end frame. We don't even need those. We just want a single hitbox. So I'm just going to take this type and, where is it? Action properties. Where do we store this at? Oops. And so for our character properties, we have actions and this. So I'm going to go ahead and one of our default properties, I'm going to add a default push box, right? And all it's going to be is okay. It's just going to be hitbox, right? What is our hitbox default? Do we need to... Yeah, everything is 0. So we'll have to go through and add that data at some point. So default push box. Yeah. Okay. So just to go ahead and let's make sure everything builds real quick. I can go in and add debug visibility for our default push box. What did I mess up here? Missing field default push box. Oh, because I didn't make it default. Duh. This is Zig. So let's make it hitbox. Or I can just do this. I think that works. It's a shortcut for the default values. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So let's go and add our rendered for the actual. So we need something like this, right? We loop through all the boxes here. I think we do, yeah. So we're going to do the same for push boxes, but we're also going to draw the default one first. So we're just going to take this code, right, and go ahead and drop it in a block here. We should abstract this all out to their own function, but I'm just going to write this manually first. Okay, so we need to translate hitbox temp. Over here, hitbox temp is this value, but we're going to get it from our character. So where's our character data? We have game data. We should be pulling the game character data. Okay, here's character data. So we don't need to find action or anything like that. We just need to pull in the default box. So Da 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 da. So character data dot it should be default push box, right? Yeah, we just need that, and we're just going to translate that. That should be right. I think that's it takes a hitbox, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't show me the signature of the function right here. I really don't like that. Okay, it does take hitbox. Cool. So it takes hitbox, so we don't need this. And this should just work. We don't know which color we're going to say, but we're going to say green, right? So we don't have a hitbox to draw. Well, there is, but it's 0 size, so it doesn't do us any good. Oop, use undeclared event for hitbox temp. What the heck? Hold on real quick. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, if... Why did we have an if facing? Oh, because we flip it. Okay, gotcha. Fair enough. Here we go. So we have two. We had translate hitbox flipped. I should have made that one function. No default push box. I thought we just added that. Huh? Oh, it's character properties is separate than character data. Oh, I'm an idiot. Character data is the name of our namespace, basically. Look at the name of this file. Oops. So it shouldn't be. It should come from. Not action. Where's action data come from? What? Oh, it comes from. There's an action map. Okay, we need to pull it from here, which we didn't assign to anything, did we? Okay. Bleh. Let's just do. Crap. Naming is kind of annoyed me here, so I will just go through and edit here real quick. They call it data for now. That should be good. Okay, we can't draw it. There's nothing to draw yet because we don't have the hitbox, but let's go and add the data to our assets real quick. So test character data, right? Okay, so does that do anything? Yeah, I don't want to do that. So when you go to the very top of our character asset, see, we have these image sequence thing. Can I collapse everything here? Oh yeah, I can. Oops. So we have image sequence, max health, actions. Where did I stick the thing actually? It's after max health. So let's go ahead and add it after max health. So we need default push box. If we had an editor, all this would be written out manually, of course. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take one of the actions, take their vulnerable box. I'm going to copy that and just change the size. So you see the hitbox, it just has these values, right? So all I have to do is assign this. We should be good. Oops. It should be like this because it's just an object in JSON. We could just put a tab on there just for now. If we had it writing out, it's going to auto format, but I'm not going to deal with that. So we have this left, right. So it's what 100,000 units, which is in the 50,000. So I'm going to cut this down by a little bit and just say 4 there, left, right. Honestly, I should have stored this all as width and height and then did some real-time processing. Well, unload to generate left and right so the math is quicker, but live and learn. Okay, let's see if everything boots up without crashing. Okay. Okay, F4. And we're not drawing it. Why we're not drawing it? Let's just make sure our data is correct. So let's jump into our... Oh, so we put a... Yeah, this is inside the tag, so we're going to have to move that out. Oops. That was being stopped by checking to see if the tag count is more than 0. We don't have to worry about that. So alrighty. Oh wait, we have the push box, but the size is messed up. I made it the right too far. So hold on a second. Yeah. Oh, this is way too large, I guess. Hold on, 1, 2, 3. Well, anyway, let's try this again. If we have an editor, obviously we can visually change these things. Okay, there we have a reasonable push box. It's not aligned perfectly. I don't know if you noticed, but yeah, seems okay. Oh yeah, it's not aligned because we're not doing width and height. We're doing position, so it should be equal to that, right? And this is a reasonable push box, right? We could make it as wide as the sprite to match, right? But once we get here, we'll start pushing the character. Yeah, let's just go ahead and make it probably about the same width for testing that. Yeah, tooling is huge time. It's just huge time sink, right? That's good enough for now. We'll just leave it at that. Okay. So we have that in. And this is, we'll work with just a default push box for now, and then we'll add individual ones for actions in a bit. We already add the data, but we need to process it, right? And I'm trying. What do I want to prioritize? In general, we're not going to be changing the push box, so let's prioritize doing the individual one, and then we can add in the default hit push box, and then we can go ahead and add individual action push boxes later. Okay, so let me open up the collision system here, right? So we're gonna have to do all this stuff for pushing the character, right? So first we need to detect that they're overlapping. So let's just go ahead and write that down. Luckily, we don't have to do all this extra work anymore. What we need to do is we need to detect the overlap and record how much overlap there is. That's the important thing. We can make an entire different system that's just for push collisions, right? So we don't have to ugly this whole thing here. But since we have this code already here, I'm just going to put it here for now and then potentially move it later, right? So, of course, we have all this code for finding an action, getting that stuff, but we don't need that for the push boxes. All we're doing here is we're gathering the collision boxes that are going to be processed later, right? So the collision phase, and then there's the pre-processing, generating hitbox use to check collisions, right? And there's also like scratch data that we use to store all this stuff. The scratch data is stored up in here. They're vulnerable, and there's slices that are like a piece of this data, if anybody was around for all that stuff. So don't worry too much about that. You can check the old videos if you've missed that. We're going to make this all the same, and I should make this actual const instead of this. But that's something I need to do for more code cleanup. And then we'll do the same thing for push boxes. This is just a slice, which is just a piece of the scratch data because we don't necessarily need to use all of it. And then we can just check how this stuff works by searching for this in this file. So first thing we do is we take a slice for that entity, right? So we need to go, oops, well these tabs are all messed up, I guess. Oh, there we go. So Oops. Push slices. Make this push hitbox scratch. And then this is where we gather all the vulnerable boxes. So let's go ahead and add gather push boxes. So we're gonna do the same thing here for gathering all the push boxes, but we're gonna add the additional default box. Well, it's more like if there is push boxes for this action, we're not going to use the default box. It's going to be either or situation, right? If there's an override for the boxes, we'll use that. So for now, we're just going to assume there's only the default box. We're not going to need to do all this stuff that's here. So all this stuff that's here, right? So, oops. So we just need to get the default box from the character data. So where's our character data? It comes from here, right? So what we need to do is get default push box. We know that's a value we need to put in the temporary store. And the way they do that for the vulnerable boxes here is when there's 0 boxes, we do this, when we do this. So what we're going to do is copy this. Oops. That's a really long line. I'm going to copy this for now. Oops. Anyway. I'm going to store, or we're going to assign the vulnerable slice to the vulnerable, not vulnerable, the push slice to the push hitboxes. Scratch. I think we have that right. Yeah, we stored that there. And we need a vulnerable push scratch count and a push. See, I should have made this a more general function so that we could just like call it. That's one like would have been made this task much easier if I had previously made it more abstract. But again, live and learn, and things I should already know. So you see here they have this new variable. Well, the thing we wrote actually to get all the translated boxes. So we need to put this here. Now we're going to do the same thing for all the vulnerable, the push box groups, right? So one thing we can do is we can go say push hitbox groups. It should be all the same here, but we have push hitbox scratch. This is just gives us a slice that starts with the first element of this push hitbox scratch array. Okay, and that just translates our hitboxes. We need a push count. Everything here should be fine. And what we're going to do, if it's 0, we assume we need to use the default box, right? Because it hasn't overwritten our push boxes. And so this function, what it would end up doing is it doesn't actually return. We need to go check this out actually. So what happens with this function is it takes in the slice of the hitbox group, right? Well, no, it just takes the array of the hitbox group, and then we also take a slice, I think. Yeah, we take a slice of hitboxes in, because it's not const, right? This one's const, this one's not const. And we modify it, this hitboxes slice, right? And what we do is we loop through all the hitboxes and then we assign the translated box. The problem is, in our case, we only have one box that's a default box, right? So we don't do this. Let's just copy what this does, and we're going to do the same thing for a default box. So jumping back down here. So what happens is, oops. So if the push count is less than or equal to 0, we're going to do something like this, right? We're not going to for loop, obviously. We're only going to do the single box, which is stored in here. So we need to, so if it's flipped or not, yeah. This is another formatting thing I think that happened. I didn't want to do this all on one line. This says, if it's flipped, call this function, otherwise this function. Again, I should have made this a single function instead of 2. Okay, so the hitbox is not going to be, hitbox is going to be this, but it's kind of annoying. So I'm just going to say const hitbox, whoops. Yeah, it's const hitbox, right? Equals this. And the hitbox is going to come in, be called into there. And then the translated box, I should have renamed that. But anyway, the translated box is going to be assigned to count, which is going to be 0. We're never going to, count's going to be increased by 1. Technically, that's what we did another thing. But we don't need to do that. What we need to do is, since we know this is just when, oops, if there is no push hitbox overrides, use the default hitbox push box for the character. Okay. Okay. Or just say push hitbox. Push hitbox. So we're going to use the default push box again if the count is 0. So we don't need to do this search thing here, right? Technically, we don't need these brackets. So we have a translated box, and the translated box gets assigned to the hitboxes. But what are our hitboxes, right? The hitboxes are the things that are passed to this, which is, it's going to be, so this is a little tricky because I forgot we wrote all our scratch into one single array instead of having multi-array. So we have to be a little bit careful here. What do I want to do here? Because we have to increase that count, right? So, well, the first thing to do is we'll just assign this to a value called hitboxes. Okay. Scratch hitboxes. And because inside that function, this is what we set the hitboxes 0 to this, right? Oh, hold on real quick. Let me double check that. The count starts at 0. So we know the count's going to be 0 because it is that slice. It's the subsection of the larger scratch of push boxes. Okay. So coming back down here. So we get our scratch boxes. We get a slice of the scratch boxes. So get the slice of push boxes. Okay, so we get this, we get the hitbox, we get the translated box, and then we just assign it. We don't really need to do this because we could just do this, right? We just assign this, but it should be okay. And then we increase the count by 1, but the thing is, what is the count for? Well, that's for this push scratch count. So actually we need to increment this, right? I want to double check that's true. We're basically doing what's manually done inside of this function, right? That count is actually, I think it's a pointer. Oh no, it isn't a pointer. We return it. It's not a pointer. Okay, it's not a pointer. Okay. Yeah. So we return the count normally, and then we add that count to. Normally we call it. We get an attack count. If it's more than 0, we generally do this. Okay. So let's just do this. Similar thing, right? we're going to take this out. Instead of doing this, what we're going to do is, okay. Why was this here? Oh yeah, this is just our temporary reference. And it does something like this, right? So what we're going to do is, we don't actually need to do both of this. We just need to do the single one, right? We just need to do this, and then we need to increase the count, right? So instead of vulnerable scratch count, we do this, and it won't be vulnerable count. It'll be push count, and then in this case, push count will be what? That's not what we should be doing. It should be array. It should be vulnerable scratch count. Push scratch count. Okay, and instead of this being, we'll make this var here, and if this is less than or equal to 0, we'll make sure to make this equal to 1, and then it'll increase by 1 here, and then we'll assign the slices, we stored slices here, not vol count, we need push count. In the case of being the default box, that should just be 1, which will just take the current number of the current index for our scratch push box and the next index. So we'll get just a slice of one element, right? Okay. Sort of slices this way. So that technically should work, maybe. Well, let's just run the game, make sure everything works and is kosher. No, there's an error. Of course there's an error, but we expected that. We don't have a push scratch count. That's important. So where's our scratch counts? Is it stored up at the top? Yeah, we don't have that. So where's the scratch count? Oh, there we go. That's in the execute function. Execute just being the function we call when running a system. Okay, it needs to be push scratch count. There we go. Is that working? The first thing we're just going to verify. Undeclared definitive flip hitbox. Okay. Where is flip hitbox? Oh, because it's not there, right? Okay. So instead of flip, we need to be facing left. So if facing left, we're doing the translate flipped. Okay. I think that's right. Oh, we don't have the offset either. Okay, where does the offset come from? Is it passed into here? Oh, entity offset, right? Entity offset is the, yeah, that's where we got. So, there we go. It's entity offset. Okay. Oh, let me do the same thing here. Okay. Okay, no crashes, anything weird. Of course, we have this box. Nothing's going to happen because we don't have it checked for collisions yet. Okay. So we gathered the box. Well, we need to run it actually. Oops. What does F4 do? I don't know what that does. Ugh. Anyway, let's run the game. And just to see if our box is what we expect, we're going to set a breakpoint here. Okay. And hit it, of course. What else? Let's see what we have here. So our push scratch count, our push count is 1. Okay. And at the end of this, the push scratch count should be 2. Oops. Yeah, because we have 2 characters. That makes sense. And then we have self and push hitbox scratch. We see the first 2 characters have There's push boxes. There's 2 push boxes, and it's kind of what we expect with some offset applied, right? Cool. So that seems about right. That's a quick sanity check. And bonus, this should work. If there's nothing crazy here, this should work for adding individual hitboxes, push boxes for a attack. We'll get there, or an action. We'll get there at some point. Okay, so we've handled the that phase of gathering, right? The gathering phase is done. Now we have to get to the collision phase. Collision phase is much simpler, more straightforward. The gathering part, a lot of the time in programming, the hardest part is just getting the data, right? Because you have to take something that's like a hierarchical structure, things that are only valid in certain contexts, and gathering it for quick processing. That's a lot of what optimization is. Okay, so where is our functions? I keep hitting F4. Okay, so we get vulnerable boxes, translate hitbox, flip facing. Oh, what? That's weird. Oh, let's close this real quick. We're in the wrong function. We're in the wrong file. That's right. Okay. Let's collapse everything real quick. So collision system, we need to go to collision phase. Okay. So what do we do here? Clear all hit events. Great. For all the active attack entities, vulnerable boxes. So what this does, it goes to the vulnerable boxes, and then goes through all the attack boxes. Don't check against itself. Then it does checks for overlap, and then it does a bunch of stuff. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing for push boxes, but we're not checking 2 different types. We're checking the same type against itself. Okay, so what we're gonna do is just copy this. Yeah, I think this is about right. Where is that? Let's collapse this to make it easier. Okay. Yeah. We're just gonna take this, go down here. Let's make sure it's just make sure we know we're dividing everything up here. Okay, we're in the push phase. Loop through all the active attacking entities. So loop through all the push boxes for each entity and check against every other entity. In a different kind of game where you have a lot of different things pushing each other, this wouldn't be the most efficient way to do things. You would want to actually like segment the screen into spaces where things would actually overlap. But this is fine for now, though. For our fighting game, we don't need anything more complicated than that. Okay, so you see how it says attacking active attack slices. We don't need that. We need our push boxes. So what we're gonna do is, instead of that, I'm gonna go down here and oops, I'm putting it under here. Say, and actually we're gonna go with our new naming format. So active, our new well, sticking to the Zig style guide. So active push hitboxes, or active push slices, right? And we're gonna find everywhere it's that, right? And we're gonna replace it. Well, not everywhere, so let's not do that for now. So we're gonna go through all the push slices, and we're gonna go through all of those. One entity attack boxes, we're gonna leave that there for now, since that's just a temporary attacker index. That's temporary. We can rename all this stuff in a bit. Don't let an action hit more than once. We don't need to worry about that for pushing. And then we actually go through all the boxes. Hold on a second. Go through all the boxes. We're going to rename that here in a bit. Loop through all the active defending entities vulnerable boxes. Okay. That's vulnerable here, but actually we're going to go through active push slices. We're gonna pretend it's like, a how do you put it? Defender versus attacker. And we technically don't need to check the same character twice. So the same two characters twice. So maybe we could record that somehow and skip processing the same two entities. We could start with the general case of having more than two entities that push. But let's just leave that alone. Well, honestly, we don't need to process both. All we need to do is see their overlapping, see what the overlap is, and deal with the value later, right? One way to do it is just recording how much you're overlapping each other entity and apply some kind of aggregate difference, but that ends up being tricky. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the overlap of the two boxes, record that, and then later check both entities and push one this way, push one that way, half the size of the overlap. Okay, so we don't want to check against itself, of course. We're also going to need another component to see. Yeah, I'm trying to think how I want to do it for this project. The simplest implementation. We need another phase, maybe the physics phase. We'll do that. Wait, what actually is our phase? Is the physics first? Physics is okay. Sorry, the physics is before our collision system, so we need to apply push. So actually, this is a tricky thing, right? There is a dilemma here. Do you apply push collision before or after action attacks, right? Attack actions are processed, right? Say you're in a situation where two characters are overlapping and they need to be pushed away, but there's also an attack happening. But what happens when they're pushed away and the attack is no longer overlapping? Now, if you process, like we're doing here, the attack collisions first, then yes, it's going to trigger an attack. It's going to trigger a hit event for that attack. But if you process the push first and then you apply the physics, then handle the attack collisions, you're not going to get that attack hitting. In your minds, which one's valid? To me, the natural thing to say is, technically, those two entities were never overlapping as far as the rules of our games go, right? That's just a temporary state they're in. It's the job of our simulation to produce the real, in a certain sense, state for our game simulation. So the way we're doing it now is not technically the correct way to do it in my mind. You might have other opinions, but I think most fighting games work this way. You process the push first, and then you can handle the attack collisions. Of course, feel free to leave your opinion. So what we need to do is, once we handle just getting the push to work, we need to go in and add another phase, right? Physics happens before attacks. Physics is updated before attacks. Now we might want to change this around as well. It really depends on a lot of things, how we want to think about this stuff. This is kind of like the deep thinking about how game simulations work. I always like to consider. You know, when we're talking in the real world, there's no such thing as instantaneous overlapping events, right? When two things overlap and cause a hit, it's not because they're touching, it's because there's some force applied. But in video games, in video game logic, if a punch is overlapping a character's head, they get hit. Not because a certain force is being applied. There's no electromagnetic resistance there, right? Um, so thinking of that, what we're going to do is, yeah. So if you put the push, again, if we record the overlap and then we wait until we run the physics system, what's going to happen here is we're going to run the collision system and it won't be updated. That data won't be updated until the next loop. So you're going to see overlap and then pushing back. So that's going to be incorrect, right? So for now, what I'm going to create is what I'm probably going to end up doing, I think might be better overall, is move those collisions out, that data out of the current collision system, because this is more of like an attack check system, right? Move that into a new push collision system that handles, we could do it two ways. We could put it all in one system, or we can defer it to another system that does the pushing back, and it can deal with things like physics. Yeah, there's a lot of things you could think about here about doing this. I've done it in a few different ways. They all have like their trade-offs. We're almost an hour here. I really want to get the basic pushing working. So instead of waxing poetic, I'm just gonna make this work. So this is what we're gonna do. The easiest thing for us to do is to jump in and make it work, and then we can clean things up. So coming back to the collision system. So when there's an overlap event, we're going to call it attack and vulnerable for now because it's a convenient way to think about it. We can think about as like entity A, entity B, because there's no attacker here, really. So push boxes overlap. So we're just going to have this debug message print so we know that happens. And there's no event to append to right now, so we're going to turn that off. So yeah, let's see if this works. I probably forgot something. Let's turn on the hitbox, put collision boxes so we can see. Yep, push boxes overlap, and then it stops. Overlap. Oh yeah, I need to use my controller. So looks like that works. Overlap. Overlap. So only thing left on this is to record the overlap and apply an equal push in the opposite direction of both players, depending on where they're standing relative to each other. So because this is not a hack, let's just say overlap amount for now, and we're gonna abstract this later. There's no, let's see, overlap distance. This is going to be along the x-axis, right? I want to stick to the new standard. So overlap distance x, snake case. So the distance, I call it distance. Well, it's called the distance to the amount of overlap up to push boxes along the x-axis. Okay, cool. Semicolon there, and we can record that here. So when the actual overlap happens here, what we can do is, let's say, what is going to happen is going to be. Do we have absolute value anywhere? I think math absolute. Do we use absolute value anywhere? S standard math dot absolute cast. That's right. It's a weird absolute value function. Anyway, because I don't remember in Zig what it is for absolute value. Okay, so we're gonna have to take the absolute value. Oops. Why is there an if there? Oh yeah. So we're gonna take the absolute value of the difference of the two. So yeah, what we need to do is take So what's going to happen? We need to know the leftmost and the rightmost points of the boxes, right? When they're flipped, the left is going to be this way. So I think when we've done these translation of the hitboxes, it doesn't matter. I think that's all handled correctly. So let's assume the leftmost value, if the left side of one box is less than the other, then that character must be on the left side, so we're going to use its left. So let's just say attack box dot, is it left is less than vulnerable box dot left. And we're just going to assume it's that way, right? Else otherwise. And we can clean this up in a bit. We're just trying to get the logic here comprehensible. So, and that means character on the right, we use their right side of their box, right? So in this case, that means the vulnerable box will be that side. Vulnerable. Again, that's just a name or a temporary variable. So it's going to be, what's going to happen is it's going to be temporary right. Oh my god, I cannot type. Minus attack box dot left. That's going to be value there. Why am I doing this? You'll see. Else is going to be another value. It's going to be the opposite, right? It's going to be attack box dot right minus vulnerable box dot right. And it doesn't really matter. So now we know that the character, this is going to be on the right minus the left here. So it's going to be a positive value no matter what. So we don't need to actually use absolute value. So what's going to happen is const over, oops, we don't need to do that. We just need to assign the overlap we have already created here. Overlap since x is going to be equal to this. And so that's just not pretty at all. Let's just make it pretty. Make it readable. Okay. Okay, so this is logical. The left side is this left side. So if there's overlap, that means one left side has to be on that part. Oh, but actually, I'm kind of stupid here, because one box can be entirely contained in the other. I forgot about that. So, hold on. We're going to do this. We're going to say var left side equals 0, var right side equals 0. And what we're going to do is, we're going to say left side equals not 0, but if it's this, attack box dot left, else attack vulnerable. We also could do min, right? If there's a min function. So is there a min function in Zig? Oops. Min. It might be in the standard math. Minimum. Returns the minimum value of A and B. This built-in accepts integers, floats, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Before the operating point. Okay, so that should work. So we can use min. So the min of the two lefts and the max of the two rights, right? That's what we care about. Now, if it's there's a problem with things being entirely contained in each other about pushing left and right, but we'll get to that at some point. We're just going to start here, the simplest example. And then the right side is going to be the max, right? Attack box dot right, and then vulnerable box. Vulnerable box dot right. Okay. And then we don't need to do any of this. We just need to say that then overlap distance x is going to be equal to the right side minus left side. Okay. And then we just need to print out. I want to print out the amount of overlap here. We don't need any of this stuff. Don't need this either. Now I'm going to print out the amount of overlap here. I forgot I forgot the syntax for is it D? Not D. We just need to put in overlap distance x. Is that fine? Does that all work nicely? No, we have an error. Built-in function problems. Invalid built-in function, min. Oh, it's minimum. Max. I think they're changing that for Zig 10. Or 0.10, I mean. Man, my throat is starting to hurt here. I'm talking a little too much. I should probably drink something warm. Variable type comp time int must be constant or comp time. Where is that at? Oh, yeah, I forgot it has to be I32. Okay. I always forget about that. That's really annoying. Okay. What's going on? I'm going to get overlap and how much is going to be overlapping. So 920. The more we're going, the closer I come inside, it's overlap. Oh, I messed up. I actually wanted to do the opposite. I wanted to do the left side on this side and the right side on that side. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't want the total width of the two boxes combined. I wanted the overlap. Sorry, my brain a little funky there. So what we messed up here was, what we want is, we want the minimum of one side. No. We want the maximum of the left side and the minimum of the right side. I think that's right. So we actually want the maximum. So we get that, and then the minimum here. So that should give us the opposite of what we're doing right now. Okay, so we can see once we barely overlap here, 0, 6,000, 12,000. So more overlap, the more that's happening, right? And then it gets smaller again. Oops, hold on. We'll move over here with the controller. See, the value gets small again. So that's pretty much what you want. And I don't want to build out all the systems and stuff right now. So what we're going to do here is, after we've processed all this is going to happen twice. It's actually going to process it for each entity, and it's going to produce the same value. But what we're going to do here is just calculate, const overlap half x. What this is called overlap half. It's just going to be divided by 2. And then we're going to apply transformation on both sides. So I'm going to open the physics system real quick. Oh, is that just in game simulation? Or did I make that a separate file? I always forget. Game? No, it's not in game. It's not game state. Or is it? State machine. It's not here. Where did I put the physics system? The action system down here. Physics system. Okay. So we're just going to get the physics here. Let's do something like this. Go back to our collision system. We need to get the physics for both entities. Right now we know what they are, right? Physics A, physics B, right? For one, and we can generalize this later. And what we're going to do is going to push them apart, right? So what we're going to do is, if this is logic. So if A is on the left side, dot, is it X? I'm not sure. I don't know how we set up our physics component actually. Physics component. Is it X and Y? We have a position, sorry. It's called position. So if we don't do anything else for now, so it's a lowercase position? It is lowercase position, okay. So we're going to say position A, position B, if position A is less than position B, oops, position B dot X, we're going to push position A to the left, right? So what we do, this is going to go to the left, minus equals overlap half, else needs to be added, right? And we need the same thing for the other side. So it's going to be the same but the opposite, right? Newtonian's laws of motion kind of stuff. So it's going to be added and otherwise going to be subtracted, right? So that means B's on the left in this case, right? Push entities apart. Okay. And I think if this works, that's going to be it for today. I'm not going to get over all the weird stuff that needs to happen for jump-ins. Oops. My throat's kind of starting to hurt. So I want to avoid that. Division with I32. Comp time int. Sign interest must be used. Divide. Right. Okay. That's the zig thing. So div trunk. We're using that already? Yeah. We are using div trunk. So it's the value and then what you're dividing by. Okay. Got it. Div trunk means we're just dropping everything else, all the bits we're not using. Okay. Because there could be an odd number, right? Or we're taking the fractional part, throwing it away, basically. Okay. So is this going to work? Oh, look, I'm pushing the character. Hey, it works. I can just push them around now. So this doesn't cover all cases for pushing things around, but it is a good starting point, right? So now we have pushing. Yay. Okay, so that's kind of it for that. I'll go ahead and commit this, and if you guys have any questions, if you all have any questions, I will take them while I'm just submitting this. So what do we change today? We changed this. So what did we do today? We supported debug drawing of push boxes out of the data, of course. We didn't support debug drawing of any action specific stuff, but I'm going to add that in off stream because it's just kind of like busy work. Yeah. Open the planning doc real quick. Wow, we're dead there. So supported push collisions. That's the simplest way to say this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Cool. Well, if there's no more questions, I'm going to head out here. But yeah, appreciate everybody who dropped by again, as always. I hope you have a nice holiday season. If you're lucky enough to be able to take off work. Yeah. Again, thank you for dropping by. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your day. Peace out.